Do they realize that they're turning off a lot of Democrats who um, don't want to go that far left, just like there were Republicans who didn't want to go that far right? There was the battle with the Republicans when Donald Trump was the nominee in 2016 to accept him to not, and fighting at the convention. That both um, both ends of the spectrum really don't speak to the majority of Americans. And it would be really unfortunate if the Democrat Party can't at some point, not, I don't know that they can do it right now. It might be too soon after the election to actually figure out what went wrong, because there was a lot of things that did. But if you have this purity test, as you said, it's just pulling things much farther to the left than most Americans want it to be.
I'll share a story. I remember a colleague of mine in the New York City Council coming out in favor of defunding the police. And so I called him and I said, let me get this straight. You want to conduct a social experiment known as defund the police on my constituents, my low-income constituents in the South Bronx. And I want to ask you, what happens if that experiment goes badly? What if it leads to more gun violence and gang violence and youth violence? You live in Brooklyn in your ivory tower. You have the luxury of defunding the police in your wealthy neighborhood, whereas my constituents have to live with the consequences of your luxury beliefs, of your utopianism. Like that to me is not progressivism. But
Right.
that to me is the dynamics of what democratic politics has become. That you have, uh, to be blunt, white progressives speaking for the working class rather than actually speaking to them.
Congressman,
Very much.
I have one
Go ahead,
question
Dan.
to follow up on what Sue said that we hear a lot on our programs, and that is RFK voters that feel like they've been driven out of the party. And they kind of went to Trump because RFK endorsed him. They're disgusted with the Democratic Party. A lot of them are libertarian. But, how are people thinking about how do we try to get them back? How do we try to speak to them? Because they are more libertarian than they are progressive. But there's a connection point if, that brought them to Trump.
Well, I think first we have to stop scolding and scapegoating and shaming those who disagree with us and claiming that, let's avoid the Thomas Frank explanation that the American people are stupid, or the Karl Marx explanation that people are caught in a state of false consciousness. Like, stop condescending. I often tell this story about Adlai Stevenson, that there was an admirer of Adlai Stevenson who said to him, "You're amazing. You're going to have the vote of every thinking American." And Adlai Stevenson replies, "Yes, but I need a majority of the American people." That kind of condescension is not only bad morals, it's bad politics. And we have to abandon the politics of condescension and meet people where they are and respect them, because the majority of the American people are wise, are smart. I think, frankly, are often smarter than our elites. And we should treat them with the respect that they deserve. So I would say avoid condescension. And then we have to be willing to go outside our ideological echo chambers. We cannot limit ourselves to MSNBC or to the New York Times. Like, we live in a brave new world of alternative media, and we have to go outside our comfort zone and engage with people whose views are different from our own. If we have confidence in our values and message as a party, then we should have a willingness to bring that message to every corner of the alternative media ecosystem.